Okay, so the state of play from Sony just wrapped up, and I was going back through my notes here as I was writing down all the different games that were revealed for tomorrow for Newswave. As I'll go through line by line, and I gotta say, this is one that I think is going to be disappointing to a lot of people online, and even like myself when I'm going through this, I started to go, oh, okay, it feels like there's definitely some voids in this state of play for games that are going to cause some excitement or even just interest. But I did want to go through a few of the games that caught my eye here, some good, some bad, and one I think was awesome to finally see get unveiled. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure that like button and subscribe if you're new. So let's start with the first one at the top of the list, and that is Concord. Concord took up a large chunk of this state of play, and I don't really know if it needed to. So, I mean, it was like 12 minutes, not necessarily half of the entire state of play, but looking at it, I think a third. The state of play was like 33 or 34 minutes, and this was 12 minutes, I believe. So this just kept going. And in fact, the opening for it was a cutscene that felt longer than it needed to be. This is from Firewalk with Concord, and it is a live service game from Sony, which they have seen success, especially with Helldivers 2 doing very, very well. But as this cutscene is going on, I'm getting like Guardian of the Galaxy vibes, like kind of like knockoff Guardian of the Galaxy, which sure, they could have taken inspiration from it for the characters and sort of the world that they built out here. The initial scene, though, they said it's in-engine and stuff, and I feel like that's lost meaning completely at this point, because, well, you know, when people say in-engine, it's not going to necessarily look exactly like that when we get to the gameplay itself, but still, they're going through and they're trying to show this almost as like a heist between different factions where they're trying to steal some piece of technology or something, I assume for a bounty. And eventually they get to the end of this prolonged cutscene and they start describing the game. And unfortunately for me, I started to lose interest and I was kind of disappointed in this because I thought Concord was going to be something a bit different maybe, but then they start describing it as a 5v5 first-person shooter. You're a free gunner, and then it starts to really take on the form of Overwatch or like a hero shooter, and that's, I assume, to be Sony's main goal, which is create their own first-party Overwatch. Now, they did say there's going to be narrative arcs throughout each week where they'll have different cutscenes talking more and more about the different characters. I assume adding backstory to them, and this will be in the way of seasons, I feel like. So I don't know. I feel like we have a lot of hero shooters, and I do wonder if this one's gonna be able to set itself apart, because while they did talk about the characters with like the asymmetric like makeup of them, where some will have advantages over others, it just feels like another Overwatch, at least from what I saw here. But they say there's going to be a beta in July, and they're going to have a full launch August 23rd, PlayStation and PC. We know that their live service strategy is to just launch day and date PC and PlayStation 5, whereas their single-player stuff will be more staggered, and they had God of War Ragnarok here as well on PC. That's September 19th, and in this case, the announcement came a year and a half after Ragnarok came out, and I mean, what we're looking at here, almost 2 years from release on PlayStation to release on PC. So they're continuing sort of that trajectory. We'll see if it continues to shrink down in the future, but for now, they at least have their plans around how they want to do these releases to try to keep people still focusing on their hardware with the PlayStation 5 console. They had some PSVR 2 stuff here. And again, I'll go through all these different titles line by line tomorrow in Newswave. But the one that I looked at and said, you know what, I wouldn't mind trying it because I think it fits well with VR, is Alien Rogue Incursion. That's holiday 2024. It's for PSVR 2. And to me, it looks kind of like Alien Isolation in VR, where you're going to be dealing on a more personal level then, if it, you know, first person with VR and your surroundings with a xenomorph, and I don't know if it'll be hunting you or kind of like Alien Isolation, but I think that makes a lot of sense and would be an interesting and probably terrifying thing to experience. From there, there's a bunch of games that were introduced that I feel like are going to kind of fly under the radar for a lot of people, and it's going to be viewed as kind of filler for this presentation. Trust me, I saw people online as I'm watching this who are just kind of like losing interest and commenting on like, what is this? What is going on here? What is this state of play? And yeah, really it wasn't until we got to Silent Hill 2 that even I was kind of like, okay, now we're moving again here. And Silent Hill 2 does look better here than it did initially. And Bloober Team said that. They said, hey, you know what? I don't know what Konami's doing over there with the trailer. Just hold out a bit, wait. You will see gameplay, and it will look better. And it does. I like what I'm seeing here. It does appear that Silent Hill 2 is getting the Resident Evil remake treatment, right, where they've kind of played around with the camera and the gameplay and even some of the dialogue and stuff to quote-unquote modernize it. But I think just set it up more or less for what audiences expect from horror games, which is they can be more action-oriented at times and still fit into that genre. It was a lot different back then, right, on like the PS2 and that sort of thing. So I think Silent Hill 2 looks awesome from what I've seen here, and it's coming out October 8th. Fits in perfectly with that kind of that Halloween time period. But then we got to the closeout, which for me, and I'm sure many people, probably saved the state of play from being disastrous to a degree, because Astrobot did make that long-awaited appearance. It's something we've speculated on, heard rumors on, but yes, it does appear that Team Asobi has been planning, and they've been up to quite a bit, because we see Astro, of course, it kind of wakes up, and then all of a sudden, this game hits you with everything. It's super colorful, which you'd expect from an Astrobot game after what we saw with Astro's Playroom. Seems to pay homage still to just the PlayStation brand in general, with the PS5 being a literal spaceship. People make fun of the PS5 for it looking like all kinds of stuff, and I believe a spaceship came up at one point. So it does feel like Team Asobi is just having fun with all these different things. The PlayStation 5 controller turns into a jet and you fly all over the place with it. You have a dog that's on Astro's back. You have like these lizard boxing gloves. Astro gets really, really big after sucking up water. It just seems like they had a lot of ideas that maybe overran from what they were able to do with Astro's Playroom, which was really just designed to show off the DualSense controller and the extra features of the PlayStation 5 with the fast loading times and that sort of thing. And I do like that they've just expanded it and just made an Astrobot platform. Like, that's all. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to try to work it in with PlayStation VR 2. I mean, even some of the bosses looked really cool. They had like a big cobra, a big squid that was significantly larger than little Astrobot running around trying to dodge everything. So I'm very excited for this one. It definitely stands apart from what we're used to recently with Sony and their first-party stuff, which is very much doom and gloom most times. This is just, I don't know, kind of bright, colorful, happy to a degree. So, yeah, I'm all for this. I'm picking this one up day one, and I think it's going to be a blast. And, I mean, again, September 6th, that's not that far off. So I do like the idea of some of these games getting announced, and then they release just a few months later. That said, I don't think that's necessarily needed for every single announcement, and I think that's one of the major things that this state of play is lacking, is a big, meaningful, impactful announcement from one of Sony's like top tier studios. Like Naughty Dog is a great example. The things we've heard from them are remasters, remakes, and cancellations. I feel like this would have been a good avenue for them to at least announce or show what they're working on with this new intellectual property, and then go, you know what, it's not gonna be ready for a while. We're not even gonna put like a release date, year, window, nothing. But we want to show you that, yes, Naughty Dog, they still got it, and they're still working on something behind the scenes. I mean, you could have pulled from them, Sucker Punch, Ben's, like they're Sony Santa Monica, there are many studios you could at least just show something, but they didn't, and I think that's one of the reasons many people are going to look at the state of play and go, it wasn't very good. And it's hard to blame them because, to be honest, Sony's been very quiet for a while now with those different studios. Coming out of this state of play, 3 games I saw here that I was like, okay, these look awesome, is Silent Hill 2, Monster Hunter Wilds, and Astrobot. And Astrobot's the only one that Sony really makes here. The other 2 being third party. Yeah, for me anyway, not a great state of play for what I have to look forward to. But if anything, I went into it looking for Astrobot, and I got Astrobot. In fact, they even had Astro to a position where they closed out the entire show. So at least for that, I got something out of it. But let me know what you guys thought about this state of play down below. Leave a letter grade, or even better, go over to the poll that I posted up on the community tab and vote exactly how you would grade this state of play. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.